So next up, we do have our guest speaker, Jamie. I was introduced to Jamie through the education department here in Dundee, and it was only a couple of months ago that I was presenting our network and the idea of an EduJam, which is the focus of our event next week, to the education department and to key stakeholders here in Tayside. And I was holding that meeting at the V&A Dundee. And at the end of that meeting, one of the attendees turned around to me and said, "You have to talk to Jamie." And when Jamie and I sat down, it was clear that we hit it off instantly around our passion for education and doing things a little bit differently. So Jamie has has over 20 years experience of working in education and particularly focusing in sports development. So without saying anything else, I will pass over to Jamie and he will be able to give you his guest speaker slot.
Thank you very much, Katie. It's an absolute honour to be here this morning. Absolute privilege to speak to people from across the nation, it's been a massive breath of fresh air for myself over the past number of weeks. It's kept my sanity on point, on check, and it really has been quite a overwhelming experience. So, as Katie says, I work across education, have done for a number of years. I predominantly focus on growth mindset and looking at it from a pedagogical perspective, looking at it from a learning and teaching perspective, looking at it from a parental engagement perspective, and also from a learner engagement perspective. But not only within education, I've been working across a number of different organisations across the country as well. Small, medium and multinational organisations, thinking about the people at the centre of what they do on a regular basis. How does that link to culture? How does that link to performance? How does that link to leadership? And also working across a number of different sectors, third sector in the sports sector, and working with looked after and care experienced young people as well. So one thing I don't want to do over the next quick 15 minutes is come across as patronising, doing a lesson on growth mindset, but it's very much to getting you to think about, in this current predicament, it's thinking about the approaches, keeping an open mind about the approach you have currently got. We'll never get the right formula at this point in time because it's new to everybody, but how comfortable are we with collaboration? How are we feeling about doing things differently? How are we taking into cognizance how people will cope with being asked to do things differently? And this is where the kind of mindset thing may come into it, that it's not just about dealing with creating new processes and systems to help over the next coming weeks, months and years, but the people side of that as well, because when there's change, people will cope with change in a whole range of different ways. And do we include that as part of the process design we're doing going forward, and keeping it at the centre and thinking about how it affects us, and as we've said already, having that empathy to think about how it affects other people. And it will test silos, it will test relationships, it will test, in terms of how we can really come together and be innovative and creative and think about how we do get through this. And that might link to policy, that might link to strategy, that might link to implementation of a range of different tools that we're trying to do. And I suppose it's having at the centre of that we may not always get it right, but it's having that continuous communication on a regular basis. So that's what I've been encouraging a whole range of different individuals and collective sectors and organisations to do over the past number of weeks. But before I go into that, I suppose it's just taking a bit of stock to think about how this is affecting everybody, because some of us, you might hear, we just need to get on with it. But that just getting on with it is going to be quite different for different people. And not only will people be having to deal with it, almost grief, loss with normality, but there may have been something significant that's happened in their personal life as well. So how do we build that in when we're really thinking about moving forward collectively? And this new normal, whatever that is going to be, I suppose it's really having to keep an open and pragmatic mind about what that actually means. And so I suppose before we start thinking about the learner's journey, from our colleagues' perspective, how do we start to think about how this is affecting the leaders, the staff, the practitioners, those who are responsible for creating the nurturing and warm environments to ensure that learning continues to be as best as it can be? Do we have a virtual staff room if people are doing a lot of work from home? Is there an opportunity for people to speak and share their concerns, their anxieties? Some people may be coping better than others. Some people might feel isolated. How do we check in? How do we continually check in with people to find out that everybody's okay, that we're okay? And I suppose that starts from a leadership perspective. And I think as a leader, it's perfectly okay to show your vulnerabilities at this point in time. To share your concerns, to share your anxieties. We're all facing completely new things here, and that strength from a leadership perspective of demonstrating vulnerabilities will only support and help others to see that we're all in this together. But from a collective perspective as well, how do we redefine goals? What were the goals at the start of the year? What are the goals now? How do we redefine them? Have we got everybody involved in that process where everybody's voices or feelings are heard? Do people feel part of that? Individual goals or collective goals? I'm sure you've heard a number of people saying, what kind of person and or organisation do you want to be when we come out the other side of this pandemic? Do we want to be at the same level? Do we want to be stronger, more resilient, more innovative and creative? What does that mean? How do we really articulate that for our colleagues to really tap in to what that means to them? But then it's also celebrating and probably giving credit where it's due to where we currently are in this point. Thinking from an individual perspective, how often do you give yourselves a pat on the back of coping and leading in this current strange time? But at the same time, if people are really overcoming adversity and doing remarkable things, do they get the well done? Do they get the positive reinforcement that they're doing that? Just to keep that motivation high and sharing that learning and sharing good practice, and allowing people to, again, step up their comfort zone and get them to share what they're currently doing through the current predicament. So reviewing goals, building capacity, there's a number of tools out there, that free resources that we can help. If people do have more time on their hands, can they tap into new ways of learning or something that's been on your personal development plan for a number of months or even years? There's maybe a bit of time now to get around to doing that. And from a leadership perspective, as I said, will be out with comfort zone, having to use different platforms to engage with staff, engage with learners, to engage with different communities. And again, not always getting it right, not being the expert in different things. So do we feel comfortable asking for help? Do we feel okay having to ask? Maybe we've been in a position where we have been, the person that everybody came to. Maybe that's completely flipped, and we are now going to other people to ask for that advice, to ask for that help, to ask for that guidance that might feel very, very uncomfortable for ourselves. And as a leader or management team, how are we doing appraisals? How often are we getting that eye contact with our colleagues just for a chat, for an opportunity to hear how they're getting on, being clear about any changes, to allow a platform to ask questions, to allow a platform for innovative ideas to come forward, and being open for that at the same time. Team huddles, or even from a work perspective, putting that to one side. Are we getting together for something just a little bit more jovial or fun? Having things about even quizzes or just get-togethers to keep spirits high, especially if people maybe are feeling a little bit isolated. And I suppose it has been as open, as clear, and as honest as possible about what that particular process is looking like going forward in terms of change, because you know what it's like if we go through a long period of time not hearing anything from anybody within the organisation. Somebody might start to assume that certain things might happen, and before we know it, we're creating this inaccurate world of what might be coming, which might increase anxiety, which might increase levels of stress. And So on a regular basis, having a continuous communication to say, this is where we're currently at, and being as honest as possible, because we are only human at the end of the day, and by leading that way might help. And thinking about just encouraging the personal habits each day to help people be in the best mental place to take on the challenge in terms of, watching how we're eating, how we're drinking, ensuring we're hydrated, encouraging that daily exercise, tapping into kind of some form of personal development to help people stay mentally in tune in terms of growing that mental capacity. Visualization, giving people an understanding of what do we want the future to be like. Are we thinking, are we led by fear? Are we led by anxiety, thinking what is this going to be? Or are we thinking, is there opportunities here? What kind of person can I be? What kind of organisation can we be? How do we encourage that visualisation process to get people to tap into their imagination and the creativity to think about, is there a real opportunity here to try to do things differently, but having the freedom and the confidence to do that. But at the same time, as before having a clear head, as taking and understand that people are overwhelmed, they're feeling overwhelmed. There might be things that are piling up in terms of things we just can't get around to doing because we're not in the right environment or with the right people. How do we encourage people to prioritise and then have that open dialogue of what prioritisation means? Do we encourage people to time block throughout the course of the day? So let's be honest, if you're working at home, you're trying to homeschool, you've got meetings you've got to chair, or you've got to tune into different people, things are all over the place, and every day will bring its own challenges. So how do we time block when we need to get through things, and even just focus on the one or two things a day? You may have read a bit called Eat the Frog. We all love doing to-do lists, but how many of us actually take that most ugliest and toughest task on that list and get it done? Eat the frog, and then all the tasks become slightly easier. But avoiding multitasking, focusing on just one particular thing, putting distractions to one side, saying to maybe family members, give me just this period of time, and I can, I will give you my time after this, which might help. And then just tapping into mindset. Mindset is a buzzword that is everywhere. Having the right mindset for dealing with this current situation, and how do we develop that mindset? But it does start with our own internal beliefs, our own internal program. What do we truly believe that we have got the capacity to achieve moving forward? What do we truly believe that our team and our colleagues have got the capacity to do moving forward? And reflect on that, and how is that driving the behaviours and driving the interactions that you might have? And are these conducive to what we need to do going forward? How does the habits that we've got and the habits that others got, is there an opportunity to tap into maybe reflecting on the culture we have got in our organisation? Has there been an elephant in the room for the past X amount of weeks or months or years that we can address now, that we can maybe start to think about? We can come out the other side of this a little bit better, we can perform better, we've got stronger relationships, we can maybe have an open, honest and professional dialogue, which means we can disagree and debate, but that doesn't mean that we don't like our colleagues. It just provides us with an opportunity to have that open and honest discussion. And how does that link into future behaviours, to future results, to future goals, to future direction? That focus we've got, and just keeping our kind of sanity in check. So we talked about relationships at the start as well, and going through all of this is the one thing that we have got such a massive opportunity to really strengthen and maintain and create is these long, strong, lasting relationships that we will use really well when we come out the other side of this. But is there still an opportunity to reconnect? So is there other sectors that there's an opportunity to learn and to share and to think about how we can potentially collaborate going forward, which might be new, which might be scary, which might be uncertain, but is there an opportunity there just with those platforms of communication that we've got? And it's perfectly okay to feel scared, having that fear, having that anxiety, even to feel angry at certain points. But what kind of process are we individually putting in place to help us cope with those feelings at the same time too? Are we doing something on a regular basis to give us that time to have that mind space where we can take on things with a lot more gusto and a lot more confidence, and be there for other people at the same time? Because if we're not here for ourselves, then how can we be there 100% for other people? And if that one day never went so well, every single day we can start fresh. You know, every day is going to be different. Every day is going to have its successes and challenges. So every day is an opportunity to start again, with a clear mind. And what does that morning routine look like to get you in the best place of moving forward? And giving yourself that sense of purpose every single day, giving other people that sense of purpose, where we continually have that focus to look at things. And just to be there to help everybody, you know, putting that all together. What does that look like? Again, from a process perspective, a strategy perspective, from a people perspective, where are we including that people side of change through everything we're doing just now that can really help us move out, come out the other side stronger, more together, and at the same time, not always having all the answers. So I think that's my 15 minutes. I don't want to go any longer than that.
Thank
Hopefully
you
that makes
so
sense.
much. That was absolutely fantastic. I've been scribbling down lots of little notes there, particularly around what you were saying about, you know, the massive changes and actually people feeling grief around that and loss about, you know, their normal routine, their normal lives, and how important that is to recognise that. We've got a couple of questions. So there's been some comments in the chat box, and we've also got a couple of questions for you on the Padlet board as well. That people are being able to get in there and use it. So first question I can see here, do you have any thoughts about power relationships? And, oh, sorry, that person's still writing, I'll let them finish. How do we promote and encourage growth mindset when individuals who are scared or angry about the current situation and they're desperate to return to what they know and the comfort of their previous normal? So those ones that are really angry and scared, how can we promote and encourage growth mindset for those individuals, Jamie?
I think first and foremost, it's reflecting on how we are behaving in this current predicament. The language we're using, it's having a little bit of empathy to understand people will feel like this, and there may not be a particular time that they may start to feel better. Some people might just need that reassurance. Some people might need to see that proof that this is going to be okay. Others might need to feel that and be part of that before they make their mind up themselves. So I suppose having relationships with each individual might give you a better understanding of where they are currently at, really listening to their concerns. You know, one thing we can do as leaders is listen, because once you feel listened to, you start to calm down. And when you start to calm down, you can approach the situation together a lot better. Because let's be honest, when you are engaging with somebody who's feeling it, you know, we're feeling a little bit anxious as well. So when they feel listened to, then they calm down, we'll calm down too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, fantastic, great. Now this might be a bit of a tricky one. It's something that us at Service Design Academy have been thinking about a lot recently. But what do we do, and how can we connect with the people, the students or the workers that with limited or no access to the internet? Have you been thinking about that?
Yeah, I suppose it's first of all thinking, how did you originally communicate with them prior to that? So what was that current level of communication and how effective was that? And there might be something in there that will give you a baseline to say, right, did that work or not? Then it's thinking about those who haven't got the access to those systems. Who do they know who does? So who can be almost a champion for them, that you can confidently say that the information can get there, not just one way, but can also come back as well. So it's almost trying to find somebody or a group of individuals who you know have spoken to those who maybe you haven't spoke to face to face. And that might just take a little bit of organisation. It might take people doing that collectively. But once you get an understanding of what that is, then again, you might start to calm down that some of that information is getting to others, but also others can be listened at the same time because they may have an advocate or a person who's the go-between, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And also one of the comments I just wanted to bring up from the chat was, although there are those people that are sitting with a lot more time on their hands, there are also the other ones that are extremely busy, that maybe have caring responsibilities. So exactly that, even in that state of mind, being that really, really busy, you need to have that growth mindset approach and really, really open into what's possible every day. You know?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing there is to be organised. It's to have that routine. Now, what I mean by routine is the routine will not be that perfect day every single day, but it's taking that 15 minutes in the evening to reflect on the day. What did you get round? Celebrate that. What did you not? And can that go on tomorrow's list? And if you feel that, there isn't enough time in the day, can you get up that 15 minutes, half an hour earlier, maybe before other people get up, and you can plan the day effectively. You can maybe get your bits and pieces out of the road so you are fully present for those who are then needed that attention. And that might be really exhausting. It might take a lot of time and effort to do that, but it might really start to help. And as I said before, you won't always get the day exactly on point, but being organised and having that time for yourself in the evening and in the morning might help alleviate just a little bit of pressure.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your time, Jamie. It's been an absolute
You're very welcome.